Your face has this way of making people feel unhappy.
As soon as he came back, he started taking his frustration out on me. He had already eaten dinner and said he didn't need it. His suit and bag were scattered on the floor where he had thrown them off. Reluctantly, I began to pick up the mess he had made. And when I picked up the suit jacket, a piece of paper fell out. I picked it up and saw that it was a completed divorce form. Why is there a divorce form? And it even has Sean's signature. It seems Sean was considering to divorce me. My hands trembled as I looked at the divorce form. We can get divorced easily with this. I was overjoyed. Guess I'll give you the divorce you want, huh? My name is Michelle. I'm a 52-year-old housewife. My husband Sean is 3 years older than me, and we have been married for over 20 years. I've always been shy and people tend to walk all over me. Because of this, I feel like I've missed out a lot in life. For example, in middle school, I bought a CD of my favorite artist, but a classmate known for being careless asked to borrow it, and I never got it back. I tried to ask for it back a few times, but she said, "You said as long as I give it back to you is fine, so don't rush me." And after that, I couldn't say anything more. I even started receiving mild harassment from her, and I came to think that it was better to keep my opinions to myself and avoid any conflict. I never asked for help from others and went to school even when I was feeling unwell. I think developing this resilience was a good thing, but once I started working, everything turned upside down. The company I joined emphasized working together as a team and achieving goals collectively, which forced me to communicate with my colleagues. They were considerate towards me, so I never had to shoulder work alone or be burdened unfairly. Thanks to this, I gradually became able to express my own opinions. Support from Sean, who would later become my husband, played a significant role in this. At the time, he was my superior, and I was supporting his work. Sean was good at giving instructions, and his pleasant personality was well received by our clients. He was popular among the female employees due to his excellent sales performance, but I saw him only as a boss and didn't have any romantic feelings, even though he attracted a lot of attention. Then, a sudden change happened in our relationship. It was during the company's year-end party. My nerves caused me to drink too quickly, resulting in me getting drunk by accident. My colleagues were worried about me, but Sean offered to take me home when they decided someone should. I felt very sorry for causing him trouble, as he probably wanted to take the rest of the staff out for more drinks, being the boss. When I apologized, saying, "I'm sorry for causing you trouble, boss," Sean said something unexpected.
I don't mind being bothered by someone important to me, so please don't worry about it, Michelle.
What? I was surprised by Sean's words, and as I was puzzled, he suddenly confessed his feelings.
I like you, Michelle. This is in a romantic way, and if you're okay with it, I'd like us to date.
I was incredibly surprised, but I remember being happy about his confession. I asked for some time to think, but after that I started to see Sean differently, and gradually we began to be attracted to each other and started dating. 6 months after we started dating, Sean proposed and we got married. At the time, it was common for female employees to resign when they got married, so I left my job to become a full-time housewife upon marrying. Soon after, our daughter was born, and I decided to dedicate myself to housework and child-rearing, supporting Sean. I really worked hard on household chores and raising our daughter, supporting my husband. It's amazing to see how much our daughter has grown, and I feel proud of my parenting skills. However, after more than 20 years of marriage, Sean's attitude began to change noticeably. Especially, it seemed he no longer saw me as a woman, sighing as soon as he saw me when he came home from work. He also became constantly irritable, and his gaze towards me grew harsher. I was just heartbroken by how much my husband had changed.
Hey, why are you always without makeup? Stop wearing those unsightly clothes. Even a maid would dress up a bit better.
Every time he saw me, I received such terrible criticism. Indeed, I have been wearing less makeup recently and had not been spending money on myself to save money. Sean seems to think that living expenses are not so high since our daughter left home. Our daughter recently found a job and left home, but as a result, the living expenses Sean gives me have clearly decreased. In this situation, I can't even afford to go to the hairdresser. So, I have been cutting my hair by myself recently. There's also another reason for the decrease in living expenses. It's because Sean's business trips have increased. He often goes on overnight business trips lately, which seems to cost money as he goes out drinking there. Thus, with the increase in business trips, I was told to cut down on living expenses, making it even harder for me to spend money on myself. In the early days of our relationship, even though he had business trips, they were mostly day trips. Overnight business trips were rare, happening only a few times a year, and he used to receive a generous travel allowance. But now, that allowance is considerably less. Yet recently, he has had overnight business trips every 2 weeks. Thinking this was abnormal, I confronted Sean. Hey, it seems like you've been traveling a lot for work lately. Have your job responsibilities expanded? Can't you delegate it to someone else or find some way to adjust? When we worked in the same department, Sean did go on business trips for projects he was handling. Our company operates nationwide, so there are cases where it's necessary to visit the site in person if email or phone calls don't suffice. Sean answered my question.
I'm accompanying my subordinates on their trips. I have a responsibility as their mentor.
At that point, Sean had been promoted to sales director, so it made sense that he was taking care of his subordinates. But then, I remembered something. It was when Sean had drunk too much at home and said while drunk,
The company now has a lot of young and cute girls. It's really a feast for the eyes. Not like you.
I remembered being mocked and compared like that. Couldn't understand the intent of comparing me to the young women at his workplace. Moreover, I am already over 50 years old. It's natural for the young women at work to be young, and I don't want to be compared like that. And about the business trips he mentioned, could it be that he's accompanying young female employees? If that's the case, it means my living expenses are being cut for him to go on trips with young girls. I couldn't forgive that. I don't know if he's having an affair, but it's unfair that I've been put through so much for such reasons. He doesn't know how much I've strived to save. I was filled with a sense of despair. After that, Sean's overnight business trips continued to increase. Now almost every week he goes on a business trip. All I can do is quietly see him off. If he says it's for work, I have no room to argue. And when Sean returns from his trips, he always mentions the same woman's name.
If only you were even a little bit as beautiful as Nicole. It sucks that I ended up with a wife who's not exactly a sight for sore eyes.
While saying such things, Sean drank more alcohol while being drunk. It's clear he looks down on me, but Sean is not perfect either. He used to be slim, but now he has gained quite a bit of weight. In the summertime, he definitely stinks because he sweats a lot. And after 20 years, his hair has also started to thin. Probably he is no longer told he looks cool as he was in his youth. I feel angry at Sean for despising me while ignoring his own flaws. Then how about giving me more living expenses? That way I could pay more attention to my fashion. I tried saying that, but it was dismissed with,
That would be like throwing money down the drain.
Yet, when he is not satisfied with the meals I make, he gets angry, saying,
You're a housewife and can't even do household chores properly? Always serving such crappy meals.
I was so upset after being told that. I asked him to let me work part-time. At first he was angry and opposed it, but a few days later he suddenly gave his permission. I don't know why he allowed it, but now I can finally live a normal life. I immediately started working part-time in an office role. Having worked as a full-time employee for many years, I was hired despite the long break. Then, I worked very hard. Going back to society and communicate with various people was fun, and when I started earning an income, I spent it on myself. A long overdue visit to the hair salon, new clothes, cosmetics. It was necessary to groom myself for work, so I bought the bare minimum, but it made a huge difference and I was happy. However, an unexpected thing happened. My husband suddenly took away my bank card. "What are you doing?"
You would just waste the money you earn, wouldn't you? So I will manage your salary.
"That's..."
You should continue to manage with the money I provide to you as before.
He said that with a smirk. I was speechless. No matter how many times I asked for it back, he wouldn't return it. Sean's contribution to the household income is pretty small. It's tough to manage with that, which is why I started working part-time. And one day he suddenly said he would be on a business trip alone for about 6 months. What do you mean? Were you suddenly ordered to go on a solo assignment? The assignment location is far away and he couldn't come home even during long holidays. In other words, we would be apart for 6 months. That itself wasn't much of a problem. In fact, I was thankful that my husband wouldn't be at home. However, Sean's next words were unacceptable.
Since I'll be gone, we need to cut the living expenses even more.
What? That's a problem.
Shut up, just manage somehow.
I was at a loss. We're barely making ends meet with our living expenses. There's hardly anything left over each month. Sometimes I even had to dip into my savings. We can't cut the living expenses any further. At least give me back my bank card with my salary. I'll manage somehow with that. When I said that, Sean flew into a rage.
You're always so annoying about your bank card. You're such a greedy old woman.
He just yelled at me and left the room. Of course, he didn't give me back my bank card. I was just left dumbfounded. And a few days later, Sean left for his solo assignment. I reached my limit and decided this couldn't go on, so I consulted with my workplace. They suggested that I could open a new account and have my salary deposited there. With online banking, I could handle the procedures easily. I immediately tried the method my boss told me about and had my salary deposited into a new account. Thanks to that, I was able to lead a proper life. About 2 or 3 months later, I received a call from my husband.
Why isn't there any salary deposited? What's going on?
It seemed he had checked my account with my bank card. Something seemed off, so I replied like this. I've quit my part-time job. I got fired. Upon hearing this, my husband clicked his tongue.
Really, you're so useless.
Then he hung up immediately. Maybe he was planning to use my salary without my permission. And since taking away my bank card, he might have started using the money in the account. Thinking this, I felt relieved that I had changed my account. Suspicious of various things, I decided to hire a detective agency for investigation. About a month later, a shocking truth came to light. After that, I resolved to separate from Sean, and so I began preparing for a divorce. Time flew by quickly, and the day Sean was supposed to return from his assignment arrived. In the evening, when the front door opened, I greeted him with, "Welcome back." Seeing Sean after a long time, he seemed somehow lively. However, his expression changed immediately upon seeing me, sighing irritably.
Your face has this way of making people feel unhappy.
Right after returning, he began taking his frustration out on me. Though I was furious inside, I apologized on the surface and welcomed him. I had decided to take revenge, so now was not yet the time, and I endured. Sean then grumpily headed to the bath. He had already eaten dinner and said he didn't need it. His suit and bag were scattered on the floor where he had thrown them off. Reluctantly, I began to pick up the mess he had made, and when I picked up the suit jacket, a piece of paper fell out. I picked it up and saw that it was a completed divorce form. Why is there a divorce form? And it even has Sean's signature. It seems Sean had been considering a divorce from me. My hands trembled as I looked at the divorce form. We can get divorced easily with this. I was overjoyed. Guess I'll give you the divorce you want, huh? I immediately went to submit the divorce form. Since I returned back home before he got out of bath, he didn't notice that I had submitted it. Tired, he immediately went to bed and fell asleep, snoring loudly. Meanwhile, I packed my belongings and left the house immediately. Then I canceled my cell phone and switched to a new one, heading straight to a lawyer's office. My husband bombarded me with a bunch of emails. Probably realizing I was missing, perhaps when he woke up for the bathroom, he tried calling, but couldn't reach me because I had changed my number, so he resorted to emailing. I ignored all his emails. That day, I stayed in a hotel and visited a real estate agency the next day to look for a new place to live. I had already planned to leave the house, so I had picked out some promising apartments in advance. A room was decided quickly, and preparations were smoothly underway. Later, I also called a colleague of Sean's from his workplace. More than 20 years had passed since I left the job, but that colleague was still employed there. When I called her, she responded immediately. I told her about my husband's affair with a subordinate named Nicole, and that he always took her on his business trips. Then a surprising answer came back. Huh? But Sean has been on leave for a long time. What? Apparently, my husband had been taking sick leave, claiming I was severely ill and needed care. This was news to me, and I was astonished. I immediately sent the evidence photos of the affair to my colleague and informed her that I was in perfect health. Then she reported it to the company, and the company called my husband in as it became a major issue. Naturally, Sean and Nicole faced consequences. For lying about taking sick leave and then for having an affair within the company, Sean was fired. I received a lot of emails from my husband, blaming me for the trouble he's in, asking to talk just once, and many more. But I've been ignoring all his attempts to contact me. We are divorced and strangers now. However, through a lawyer, I did claim compensation. I also got back my bank card he had taken without permission, which he had obviously used, so I claimed that money back as well. Sean went from a well-off man with a respectable position to an unemployed middle-aged man overnight. Of course, his affair partner would not stay with him in such a state. He was dumped, and he even sent me emails blaming me for that, which I ignored as usual. Thinking, serves him right, I continued to ignore his emails. Recently, I became a full-time employee at the company where I started working part-time. Now, I am working hard, staying in touch with my daughter, and going out to eat together. From here on, I plan to enjoy my single life, both at work and in my personal life, to the fullest.